speak about a famous Iraqi rabbi. His name was Rabbi Gorji Yair Z'tl. Now he was born, I believe, in English year 1909 in Baghdad. Remember, that was a bastion place of Torah learning at that stage in time. And I believe he passed away in the year 1999, to be precise. It was the 5th of Elul, and he passed away in Jerusalem. He was a famous payatan. He was a chazan, a shliach tzibur in the synagogues, and an educator in Israel. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he was born in Baghdad. Remember, Baghdad at that stage in time was a center of Torah learning. It was a time period of the Ben Ishai and many of the other great rabbis over there. And he was the firstborn to Rav Yosef Yair and Rabbanit Masuda Yair. He would go on to learn in a famous yeshiva in Iraq called the Midrash Talmud Torah Yeshivat Bet Zilkar. Remember, it's a place which had many great rabbis of yesteryear. We've spoken about it before. That was headed originally by Rabbi Abdallah Somech back in many years beforehand, and his brilliance was very apparent over there. I think there was other famous rabbis learning there, especially during his Tkufa, let's just say, in one city, in some midrash of the Midrash Talmud Torah, and I think from Rab Menashe Sela, if I'm not mistaken. Eventually, he would make Aliyah and go to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, just like many people will go from transit from, let's just say, from Iraq, especially to Eretz Israel at that stage in time. I think it was part of the Poel Mizrahi would actually travel at that point in time, and he would become an educator in a Torah school network called Beit Aaron in the Shchunat neighborhood, or the Beit Yisrael neighborhood in Jerusalem, a place we visited on this channel before, on which we must have to point out. Now, it's interesting, he's considered to have been one of the greatest chazanim, let's just say, of coming from Iraq for the Jewish community, without that, especially during the 20th century. He's very famous, and we're going to see at the end he leaves very great relatives of his. Will actually be arguably the greatest chazanim in the world, without a doubt. It's actually interesting. He would learn also while he was young, especially chazanut, under the great Rabbi Ezra Dan-Gur. Remember, the Dan-Gur was a famous rabbinic dynasty in Iraq. Rabbi Dan-Gur was actually, I believe, the chief rabbi of Baghdad between the years 1923 and 1928. He would also set up a printing house, I believe, and various different books of his will actually get printed at later stages in Iraq, later on in his career. Rabbi Ezra Dan-Gur, I recommend everyone to actually look at this video. He would learn from various teachers within regards to the brilliance in his later years. Also, he would work interesting. While it's actually interesting, more can be pointed out about Rabbi Gorji, especially on the weekdays, in the famous great synagogue of Iraq, this place we've spoken about on various occasions before, Tzalach Lebechiri. This is Beit Knesset Agdol, as they say. He'd also be on Shabbatot, he'll be the cantor also, or the Beit Knesset Tzalach Dinah. I think this was in Bet El Shiragi neighborhood over there. Continue over there. His name was very famous. His friend Rav Shaul Fataya, who was, I believe, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Fataya, would invite him to the Beit Knesset called the Minchat Yehuda in the Machane Yehuda neighborhood in Jerusalem, over there to work, I think, for several years, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, within regards to from a chazanut to sphere, respectively. He would learn Torah among the great rabbis of his generation, including among his rabbis, include the famous Rabbi Yehuda Fataya, we spoke about before. Also, Rabbi Ephraim Cohen. Now, most notably, Rabbi Ephraim Cohen was the father of Shan Cohen, who was a spiritual leader of Shas, who passed away to full-time Iraq. He was a Darshan. He was one of the heads of his famous yeshivat, Parat Yosef, the bastion of the Sephardic yeshivot, without doubt, in Israel. Another one of his rabbis was the famous Rabbi Nisim Kaduri, another great rabbi who we've spoken about on various occasions before. Now, it's actually interesting. He would actually be part of do a lot of various different wedding ceremonies. Rabbi Gorji Yair would, all throughout his life, especially at the time period in Baghdad, mainly for the Baghdadi community in Jerusalem, and would do many events. Become the Chazan became world renowned. Not just he would actually receive his license, let's just say, to become a Chazan inside the Chuppah on behalf of the local court in Jerusalem. And he would one of the let's say recommendations and ordinations that he got was from the famous Ashkenazic rabbi, Rabbi Tzvi Pesach Frank. He was the senior and, let's say, most famous rabbi and author of the Har Tzvi responsa, and one of the founders of the chief rabbinate in Jerusalem. And I believe he was Ashkenazi chief rabbi of Jerusalem from the year 1936. Rabbi Tzvi Pesach Frank was. I think, sadly, his son was a soldier, David Yair, who sadly died in military service, I think in the Sinai, it's reported over. Now, several of his grandchildren in modern day are very, very famous cantors in the Sephardic community, including the famous Moshe Chabusha, who we've spoken about on various occasions before. He's a famous Israeli musician, a poet, a cantor, a composer. He does many, many events. He's very, very famous. Recommend everyone to look into him. Also, Rabbi David Menachem, another community rabbi he happens to be. He writes various perushim on different Torah thoughts. He is a kiruv rabbi. Once again, also a writer of piyutim, Torah songs, and music artist in itself. Now, he left great descendants. Among his descendants, another famous Kabbalist, Rabbi Shmuel Darzi, also another great rabbi, one of the rabbis of the city of Hadera. Rabbi David Mashta is another one of his great Talmudim, which I must mention. He was, I think, the rabbi of the city of Hadera. Also the famous Rabbi Ben Zion Mutzafi, also from the rabbinic dynasty of the Mutzafi family. That's another one of his Talmudim, Rabbi Zion Mutzafi. But without that, he's probably one of the most famous rabbis in the world. He's a famous Kabbalist, he's a Darshan, he's a Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivat B'nai Tzion in Jerusalem, and part of the Badatz B'nai Tzion, a Kashrut authority, and one of the great rabbanim of the ultra-Orthodox community, of the Sephardi community across the world, and especially in Jerusalem. That was another one of his Talmudim. And Rabbi Yehuda Yair, his nephew, a great rabbi, Chazan Rabbi Yehuda Ovadia, that's another one. And I think there was other great personalities that were his Talmudim all throughout the time. I think various poets, I think there's someone with the name the Balfour Meidad Hakak, was an Israeli poet, former chairman also, if I'm not mistaken, of the Hebrew Writers Association. He was, and wrote various different important things. Now, he passed away on the 5th of Elul, I think, and was buried in Har HaMonachot, the Mount of Rest Cemetery. You can actually find some of his notes in, let's just say, the National Library of Israel. There's a lot spoken about him. There's more information found with regards to Rabbi David Menachem on the internet, especially his son, the Major David Yair, who fell in while he was serving in the military. I think he actually fell, I think it was in the 6th of March 1977, if I'm not mistaken. That would have been the 16th of Adar of that year, Tafshin Lamed Zayin. He was only about 23 and a half years of age when he lost his life while protecting Am Yisrael. So that's very interesting. We actually recorded another video of another great rabbi from the Yair family, who was actually a famous, renowned rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yehuda Yair. He was from his family. He was one of the great rabbis of the Mosiah synagogue, and we actually recorded a video about him. I think just before, I think his Hilula was just after Hanukkah. I think it was actually on Zot Hanukkah, if I recollect. And we spoke much about the family over there. He was one of the great rabbis of the Mosiah synagogue, and one of the great rabbis of Jerusalem. He was a very famous kiruv rabbi. Rabbi Yehuda Yair was also where he gave various different classes over all throughout, and various different Shurei Torah inside the Mosiah complex. I recommend everyone to watch it with that video. I think we actually recorded it right at the end of the year 2024, on December 31st of that specific year. So they're very interesting. Rabbi Gorji Yair, the great rabbi from Baghdad, he was about 90 years of age when he passed away. The famous rabbi was, and the famous Payatan, great singer was. You can actually find some of his great music that's found online, especially on YouTube. There's much discovered to him, and he was really keeping up, let's just say, the pureness and the music of Iraq of a golden day. So I would recommend everyone to learn more about him. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the great Oriental rabbis that we see here. We've covered already 1,200 videos of great rabbis. We are possibly the only place in the English language that will look at the science behind the rabbis of different countries, all throughout Ottoman countries, North African countries, various different Spanish proximity countries also. If you feel anyone's interested in watching any of these videos, share these videos to other people. Friends, we're nearly on 7,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe now and join the community. If you feel we should cover a video of a rabbi that you descend from and we haven't covered the video yet, if you've checked the playlist, please send me an email, let me know more information, we'll be happy to cover it. If you descend from any of the rabbis we're speaking about, please also once again let me know, send me an email, send me any comments, I will really appreciate it. So wishing all a Shabbat Shalom, recording this here from the city of Bet Shemesh just before Shabbat Parshat Balak here in Israel, we're in the heart of the book of Bamidbar. And friends, also on this channel we cover Daf Yomi videos, we travel Israel, we record videos with regards to Parshat HaShavua, the new Hebrew month, current topics. Also another special series that we do is we get another great rabbinic personality or another famous Jewish personality to give over a message for a minute or a minute and a half and give some wisdom over for everyone inside this beautiful committee over here, this beautiful community. So wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Thanks everyone for watching and blessings here from Israel. Thank you everyone. Thanks and appreciate.